Making the decision to scan your paper is a huge step because it can be a process. It's simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. That's why I'm here to help you make it easy. And if you follow these steps, you're gonna expertly prepare for your paper scanning project, and your digitization partner will thank you. First, you want to start big to small. Basically, it means you start at the top, the big grand idea, and then keep narrowing down. That's a phrase I picked up in the Marine Corps, and it absolutely is applicable to digitization projects because you definitely want to start at the top and then go down to the bottom. You want that big course direction that you're starting with instead of starting in the weeds and at the very bottom where you can get into analysis paralysis, looking at all these different little things while missing the big idea, you know, that old phrase. So you want to start big to small. Now with a digitization project, with paper scanning specifically, the main points that we're going to follow here, going big to small, are first you have project, just the project whole, then you have document types, then you have boxes, then you have folders and files, then you have the page, fasteners is next, and then the condition of the material. So that's taking it from big, the project idea, all the way down to the condition of the material. We'll go through each of those steps next. So first is the project. This is just the general scope. Again, you're looking at the very big idea. You're talking to a potential company you're gonna work with, and you're saying, I have 500 boxes of paper, office files I need to scan. You're looking for the general scope, the general price, timelines, things like that. You're not getting to the nitty gritty. That's gonna come later. It's just, hey, I have this. What can you do for me? What do we need to look at? And they should be able to give you that 30,000 foot, that bird's eye view of, well, you're looking at so-and-so price, the timeline's roughly this, here's kind of a basic scope we could go down. And if that's in the range and the idea that you're thinking of, and you're thinking, okay, this is something I can work with, I like how I'm talking with these folks, they seem knowledgeable, they have the things I need, then you can go to the next steps and keep going down that ladder. But at first, you're just looking for that high level, that big idea. The next level down is document types. And the reason we want to talk about this before we get to the physical material is because it's going to aid in the organization of the project. So assuming you're talking with that scanning company, you said, I like them, now we're going to go down the path, and they're going to start asking you these questions about, all right, you have 500 boxes, that's fantastic. Well, how are they doc typed? What are the different materials, the contents of the records that we're gonna have to deal with? So doc typing is basically just getting an idea of the different variations of records. So it's all paper scanning, but each document could be related to something else. That's why it's called document typing, because you're putting each document into a type for your scanning partner. Let's say you work at a university and we'll just say you have 300 boxes of records and you're saying, all right, scanning company, I have 300 boxes of records, and they're actually separated into multiple types. We have about 150 that are student records. We have about 100 that are HR and personnel files. And then we have about 50 that are finance. Those three types would be your doc types. You have student records, HR, personnel, and then finance. The reason that's important because they will actually likely be processed differently. As part of the process flows and actually getting the project running, there are different steps involved. So the way you do the student records or the way they're actually physically organized may be different, but also the indexing may be different. Same for the HR, same for the finance. So it's important to have those doc types. And critical to even just knowing that you have that many is actually physically separating them. That is an essential part of preparing for a project, because if you just give, let's say we're working with you, give us 300 boxes and everything's just intermixed and intermingled, it's gonna be very difficult to prep it. And it can be done, it's just gonna be slower, it's gonna be more complex, it's gonna take longer, it could cost more. But if the files are physically separate, like you literally say, these 150 boxes are labeled student records, you know those are student records. These 100 are HR, these 50 are finance. That is a great way to prepare to hand them off to the scanning company. You know, it's not the end of the world if they're mixed up. That's probably gonna happen anyway. No one ever does a project or prepares it perfectly. That's the nature of this kind of work. But doing as much as you can to get it prepared, to make it a seamless process is gonna be fantastic, and companies like ours very much appreciate it. The next level down is boxes. Basically, the banker's box. It's our favorite unit of measurement because almost everyone knows what a banker's box is. If you say you have a drawer or a cabinet or file, they're all various sizes and whatnot. But if you say, I have X number of boxes, banker's boxes, we know, boom, exactly, I know the size of the project, I get an idea of the scope. So it's our favorite unit of measurement. When you come to the box for the scanning, since you already doc typed and we know that X box, you know, this box here is, let's say, student records. Then you go into the box, that's the file and folder level. We're gonna get that more detail next, but that's what's included in this unit. So you have the doc type identifies what this box is, and then once you get into the box, then you take it a little further. But before we get to that file and folder level, what you should be thinking about with boxes is when you're getting them ready to scan, you're gonna hand them off to your scanning partner. You should think, which ones do I need done first? Are there some that are accessed more or accessed less? If they're accessed more, do you wanna hold those till the end because you're still using them constantly, so get the older stuff done first that's not used much? Or do you wanna get the ones that are being used a lot done first because you don't wanna deal with the physical records anymore? That's something you need to consider when you have your boxes ready, they're doc type, you think, which ones do I wanna get done first? If you hand off 300 boxes, that's probably 2, 3, 4 month project depending on pacing, capacity, and whatnot. But it's not necessarily, hey, here's 300 boxes and a week later they're all done and digitized. So you have to consider the logistical part of what needs to be done first. Now, of course, if you do need records during the project, there should be a request system, a request process in place. If you're working with BMI, we have our BMI request system that's available to you where you can contact us, we can prioritize files. But that's something you should think about, that when you hand off these boxes, if you hand them all at once, you may need more requests, or you can do in batches, maybe do batches of 100 or 50 at a time, so you only have the ones out that can be done in a quick fashion and just keep that transport going. And tied back to the doc typing, so you know these are student records, let's say 150 boxes student records. Even if the labeling, there's also labeling for internal, we're going back to, let's say you work at a university and these are university records, you may have an idea of what that labeling and naming is, but make sure it's very simple for a company like ours. It's very identifiable because we're not there to interpret data. We need to know this box is student records. If I have 3 process flows set up, I don't want to put student records into the finance process flow because it's going to throw an exception. There'll be a red flag of, hey, something's not right here. And we'll go, oh yeah, well, this is student records. Why was it here? So I don't want my team to have to interpret information. Just make sure it's clearly labeled and it's very identifiable that these are student records so they get into the right process flow. All right, now we're getting to the file level. When we say file level, that can mean a folder, a binder, some sort of file tab, even just separators within the box that have pages between it. Basically anything that identifies a record as a distinct record. It could even be stapler paperclip, which are fasteners that we're going to get to in the next section. But basically, this is the level. So your project, doc type, your boxes, now you're in the nitty gritty of the actual records that you start handling physically and pulling things out and prepping them. So part of that file level is the indexing, because likely, again, let's say this is a university and multiple records, student records, finance records, HR, those files will indicate something. If there's a folder, it'll probably mean that's a student record. So you might have a folder with something on the tab that says, John Smith, and then there's a date of birth or social security number, something like that. If it's finance records, you might have, a year and a client name or something like that where invoices are going to. If it's HR, you'll have employee records, but they'll likely be in folders, and each folder or binder or something will identify that the pages behind this thing, this physical separator, are part of the same file. That's the crucial part, is our scanners knowing, okay, if I see X, it means Y, meaning if I see a manila folder, whatever's in that folder means that is part of the same record. That's one instance. Or it may mean, let's say these are finances, and I see a folder and it has the client name, right? So you see a folder, great, that is a client. I was told by university, this folder indicates it is a client. Then when I get inside that folder, every staple document means it's a new invoice package, let's say. So not only do I know that the folder means this is a new client, but within that client folder, each staple means those are individual documents. So you have a folder, you pop it up and you see a staple document, it's 3 pages. That 3-page document that was stapled will become a 3-page, let's say, PDF. The next 4-page stapled document will be another 4-page PDF. They're distinct files. Compare that to, going back to the student record, you open a student record, there's a folder, you open it up and there's many staples, maybe 50 pages or so, but we're told we want that entire folder just made as one PDF. So folder, you open up, you prep all the pages, get rid of the fasteners, and you just scan those 50 pages. That's one PDF per folder. So they can be organized very differently. But again, going back to the interpretation, our team should not be interpreting, well, this I think could be this, it could be that. It should be a folder means X, a staple means Y, a binder means Z, whatever it is, those physical separators should be clearly identifiable so we can process the records properly based on what you need. Tied to that as well is the indexing. So if it's, let's say, student record again on the folder, if that name, date of birth, whatever it is on the folder, great. We're gonna scan everything and name it by what's on that folder. If you go back to the finances, like the invoice records and whatnot, maybe we have to capture something from the first page of each document. So the physical folder with the client name becomes a digital folder named by the client, but then the individual files have to be captured by something on the pages. That indexing is critical of where it is, what we're capturing, is it consistent? That's essential for digitization and indexing, or digitally naming the files properly, so that when we're done and you get the files back, they can be accessed and actually used. The worst thing you can do is have terrible indexing and the files are just not even usable once they're digitized because you can't find them. You don't even know what to look for. So indexing is essential to the digitization process as well. Okay, next rung down from the files and folders, the pages. So as we just mentioned, you open a folder, you open a binder or file or whatever it is, then you have the actual pages. That's what you're going to scan. That's where the information is coming from. That's the data that you're looking for that you're gonna actually use once it's digitized. So things that are gonna come up with the pages themselves are, of course, the fasteners. We're gonna talk about that. The condition of them, we'll talk about that as well in a little more detail. And then the organization in the sense of, is each page, each physical page a record, or is it multiple pages a record? So those are pieces that tie together. All the rungs of this ladder intertwine. It's just which level are you looking at? But the pages are really, you prep them, you scan them, and then maybe there's some post-processing like OCR for text search. That's something at the page level you may want to think about is, do I need text search? So once they're scanned, how are they organized? Is having the student name from the folder simple enough I can get to that? I don't need the individual pages text searchable, or you say, no, some of these files might be 200 or 300 pages long. I need text search because even if I find the file, I don't want to scroll around and look for it. So that's something at the page level is how many fasteners are on there, the condition, the quality, and then what you want done with that page once it's scanned. All right, now we're at fasteners, which means anything that's physically binding material. So it'd be a staple, paper clip, rubber band, whatever, something that is holding records together. In my 11 years, I've never seen any project without fasteners. You can imagine it would be a lot simpler if projects didn't have that, because then it's just sheets of paper, you put them through a scanner, easy peasy. But they're gonna have fasteners to keep them together because that's how you identify or signify documents and records and whatnot. Now the key with this is they have to be removed prior to scanning. You can't send pages through scanners with these things on them because it could ruin the scanner. So they have to be removed. That's called prep or preparation. The more fasteners and bindings you have, that is gonna increase the prep time, which increases cost most likely. So something you can actually do if you wanna kind of prep them yourself is remove as much as that you can, as long as it doesn't mess up how we identify records. Of course, if you think, well, BMI, a staple means it's a record, then you probably don't want to remove those because we won't know it's a record if you remove that staple and now there's just 300 pages sitting there. We won't know which one's which. So if it's essential to the project, knowing that that staple or paperclip, whatever, creates a file, then you probably want to leave them there. But if you don't need that, say, no, I'm just doing box level indexing. I just want you to scan everything. It's one file. These are archival. Maybe you do want to go through and prep it yourself to remove the prep from our side, which lowers your cost. Now, lastly is the condition, and not all documents are created equal. Some are very clean, nice and tidy. Some are absolutely terrible. And that's gonna affect your scanning timeline and the pricing as well, because you can imagine you have nice, clean, new, fresh pieces of paper that maybe a few staples here and there, but they're nice and organized, easy to prep. That's not gonna take much time to get ready to do the actual scanning. Let's say files that have 3 or 4 staples per file, and there's like coffee stains, there's a little water damage on something because they were in a moist area, whatever it is, that's gonna take more time to prep. They're gonna be a little more fragile. We may have to repair them. We have to remove a lot more bindings. So that condition of the material is gonna affect your project because it just takes a lot longer to actually get ready to scan. Sometimes pages are so bad that they actually can't be sent through our high-speed scanners. They have to be done on an overhead scanner, which again increases cost. So you have to think about the condition of your material when you're handing off to your scanning partner and letting them know before. And as much as you can let them know about the condition of your material if you're aware of it, so they can put that into the scope of work, they can be ready for that and not have it be a surprise when you actually start the project. If you follow the ideas I've just laid out about preparing and organizing your records before you hand them off to a scanning partner, you can really improve your project. If you're interested in more about paper scanning, this topic in general, go ahead and watch this video here. It's our paper scanning guide, kind of an overall video that covers how many records you have, how to quantify that, scanning costs and things of that sort, just anything that goes into a project as a whole. So check that out for more information. And if you want to contact us, go ahead and click the link I put in the comments below. I pinned it up. You can get in touch with us and we'll talk to you about your project to see how we can work together. Thank you for watching.